What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And today I'm going to talk briefly about why I don't go to car shows anymore, right? Um, to rewind a little bit so that you guys understand where I'm coming from. There was a ton of oldies concerts and car shows and cruises in San Jose, right? As a teenager, especially, early to mid 90s, it was popping over there. And so we would go and we would always get into it. Always. I remember having tickets to some concerts over there, never making it in. And it was always with other Northerners. I know they have Southsiders in San Jose. They did back then too. And I know they got set up neighborhoods. So I'm not tripping off that. I'm just saying that the functions we would go to and where we would go, you didn't see them, right? But there was a lot of folks, especially in other parts of the Bay Area, that just didn't get along with San Jose and vice versa. The vibe was different. It was a lot. Plus, it was the 90s. Everybody was banging on everybody. Um, it was just fun everywhere. And so we'd go to San Jose, sometimes with good intentions, sometimes with bad intentions, always getting into conflict. And so fast forward, I come home from prison December 2005. Um, I'm not active. I'm not, with any of that stuff. They didn't have terms active, inactive back then, but I paroled and didn't want to get involved in any issues, right? And so my brother had just got on Sabbath Out record label shortly before this, and so most all the Sabbath Out people were going down there, right? Tone, Davina, my brother, everybody, and there was a whole caravan of people, and they weren't performing. But they were doing autographs. I thought they were performing when I went down there. And so it was a street low show in San Jose. And again, I want to say like 2006. And so, but they were doing meet and greets and, all the stuff that folks do. And so I was invited, right? And my thought at the time was, you know what? I'm entitled to go to this show, right? Like I'm a grown man now. And I've spent years in prison looking at Street Low magazine and Lowrider magazine and everything else, and now I get a chance to go. And I'm older, I'm about 30. I don't really want no issues. So why not? And I'm going down there with these guys. It's gonna be a different experience, right? Like I get to piggyback on their sort of fame, if you want to call it that, right? And maybe meet some folks, some females, whatever, right? And thought it would be a cool atmosphere, right? Like no funk, you know what I mean? We're the cool guys going with the cool guys. And I looked on a map, and and San Jose was less than 50 miles from Concord if you just drew a straight line. And so I didn't have to ask my parole officer, nothing, right? And I said, sure, I'll go, and then I dressed the part, so to speak, right? I didn't generally walk around the street dressed like a gang member. That wasn't my vibe. That's not how I came home from prison, trying to present myself. But in this case, I figured it's gonna be all Northerners, right? Of course. And so I had khakis. I had on a white Montana jersey, some white and red Jordans. Like I was fitted, right? I looked sharp. I had my little hat on, and and I thought it's no big deal because like it's all Northerners. I'm older, and so cats ain't really gonna mess with me. I ain't messing with them. I'm not caught in all this childish stuff, and I'm just a part of this group, right? So we go, and on the way we're drinking Hennessy. There's this dude Wino from Concord that's with us, right? Gary. He had done some time in prison. He was out, and so we were just kicking it, right? We're drinking a bottle of Hennessy. We're having a good old time. We get down there, we get kind of VIP treatment in terms of going in there, special little parking lot, the whole 9 yards. And cats is, little booth set up with tables in the middle of this main kind of walkway. And they're selling merchandise and this. And I'm like, bro, this is dope. You know what I mean? And mind you, I'm relatively fresh out. I've been out certainly less than a year, probably less than 6 months at that point. But I'm living it up, right? And there's hella people everywhere. A lot of people flamed up. I'm just like, wow, it's a little overwhelming, but it's also fun. And And so I go to walk off, right? Well, Wino gets at me, right? Wino had kind of wandered off. I wasn't wandering around. I was staying kind of with the group. Um, I didn't want to be in the crowds. I didn't want any of that kind of stuff. I wasn't ready for all that. So we had our own little area, and I was cool in that area, just kind of watching the vibe, right? And so I figured maybe we'll go walk around later, but I wasn't ready for that. And so Wino comes and gets me. He's like, "Hey, bro, let's go for a walk." And I'm like, "You know what? Okay, right." And so I go walking with him, and it's hard to describe, but there's this main road, and then there's just like this little kick out to the side where it opens up real big again. So I'm walking with him, and it's a fucking sea of people. I mean, just people everywhere, right? And next thing I know, this arm goes in front of my face, bing, and knocks Wino, right? And I was, oh shit. So I swing just on instinct, right? Just a reaction, right? I swing. And once I start swinging, I don't stop, right? And so and I'm not, oh, I was knocking everybody out. I was just fighting like, what the hell? And this whole melee kicks off, right? And I remember one dude had been walking with a walker, and then all of a sudden now he's swinging his walker around, and people got like red bandanas on their head that look like the Arab things, and it's all red on red, and these dudes are cracking, boom. And I don't know why. I've to this day I have no clue. If anybody's aware of this incident, please feel free to drop it in the comments, man. Like I said, Street Low Show, San Jose. I want to say 2006, and so they were beefing, and so I'm just hitting, trying to work my way through, right? And I don't want to see this cat. He's like, "Hey, Raz, this ain't," and kind of pulls me off to the side. And I don't know who he was. Maybe we crossed paths in prison or whatever. But so I get off on the side area, and there's like a little bathroom over there. But in this area, it's dead. There's nothing, right? My brother comes around the corner, sees dude. Hey man, what the fuck? And so it was all calm, right? There's more details, but to keep this relatively brief, it's all calm. And so I walk to the side. I got a little blood coming out of my nose, right? That's it. I'm not busted up, but I got some blood coming out of my nose. I got touched, right? It's if you've been in a melee, it you get touched and you touch other people. That's how it works, right? And so I'm like, fuck. And he's walking with me, and I think I had taken off the jersey. I don't remember. I think I took it off so I didn't get blood on it, or maybe I just put it back down after wiping my nose. And I'm like, shit, we gotta wiggle, right? We gotta go. And then here come two Santa Clara County sheriffs around the corner. And they're not running or anything, they're just walking over through the area. And they're like, "You, come here." And I'm like, fuck. And so calls me over, doesn't call my brother or anybody else. I think there was one other person with us. I don't remember who, but doesn't call them over, just me, because I'm the one that has a little dot of blood on my nose. And I had to go, "What's up, man? What's going on?" I said, "Nothing. I just used the bathroom." They put me in cuffs, and they're walking me to like this trailer that was on the property, I guess, of the convention center, fairgrounds, or whatever it was that we were at. And so as they're walking me, they're like, "Hey, you on parole or probation?" And I said, "Yeah, parole." And they said, "Oh, okay. Where'd you parole from?" I said, "San Quentin." And the guy goes, "Where'd you parole from before that? Like, where were you before San Quentin?" And I was like, "Pelican Bay." And he's like, "Oh, okay, so you're validated." I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Northern Structure?" I said, "That's what I'm validated as." He goes, "Where you from?" I said, "Man, I paroled to Contra Costa County. I live in Concord." And he goes, "Man, what the fuck are you doing down here?" And I said, "Man, I don't even know." I said, you know what I mean? I don't even know. I just came down to a car show, man. Clearly it was a mistake. So they pulled me into the room and they say, "What's going on, man? What happened out there?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I was walking to the bathroom, and all of a sudden fish start flying. So I was swinging and I got away from it. I don't know who's fighting who. I don't know why. I don't know nothing, you know." And he's like, really, you know, what? I said, I don't know anything, man. I was just walking to the bathroom, and all of a sudden people were swinging, and so I just tried to get through the crowd to get. I had really had to go to the bathroom, man. But I got no issues with anybody, and I don't know. Again, I don't know what that was about, and it was a huge thing, right? So it's not as if I'm telling on a fight that happened, right? Like this is dozens and dozens and dozens of people that kicked off with each other. So um, they knew what was going on, and they're like, you know what? Should we just call your parole officer and let them know that you're down here kicking off fights? I said, I didn't kick off nothing, you know. And it said, so how, you know, what made you want to come down here? And I said, well, I'm with the Sabbath Out crew, right? And so we just came down just to sign autographs and sell some t-shirts, man. That was it. But I said, I'm done. I'm ready to go. And so essentially what it came down to was oh, they said, oh, so you're saying if we let you go, there's gonna be any problems? I said, there'd be no problems, none at all. I said, you let me go, man, I'm leaving. I'm going back home immediately, right? Well, I thought you came with this big group. I said, they'll go too. I'll take them with me. Like, if we are leaving, right? If I leave, we all leave. And it says, is that right? I said, yeah, I don't want no problems. I'm gonna go home, you know? And they said, okay. They said, we'll give you 10 minutes, man. We'll give you 10 minutes. You and your whole little entourage get out of here and we'll let this go, man. It's you know, it's be a whole lot of paperwork, man. And I said, cool, right? So they let me go. And as I walk out, they let me go and I'm by a parking lot. And I call my brother, right? I got my little Metro phone. And I call my brother, he's like, Brody, what happened? And I'm like, hey, fool, we gotta go. And he's like, what you mean? I said, we all gotta go, right? And so we leave, right? We leave and we go back. My brother had already called my lady at the time and was like, hey man, I think Rascal's going back to prison. So she was all freaked out. And I'm like, where the fuck is Wino? Right? Because apparently, you know, now I find out the story as we're leaving. Wino had been out there drunk, right? He earned the name Wino. He'd been out there drunk, bullshitting, talking shit with people, like politicking, getting into shit that was happening out there with one of those groups, right? But he didn't tell me that. He just said, hey, let's go for a walk. He didn't tell me, hey, we're gonna go kick it off. And so we're walking, right? And he put me in a bad spot. So we get back to the apartment, right? And I'm like, so this is why I don't go to car shows, bro. This is it, right? And then Wino pulls up. And me and Chino live right next door to each other at the time, right? At these apartments on Willow Pass. And so then Wino winds up pulling up. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Right? And he's like, man, Raz, all I know is I got knocked down and I seen your pant leg right there and I recognized your shoes. And I was trying to pull myself up by my pant leg, but by your pant leg, but you kept moving. And I was like, this motherfucker, right? So yeah, I learned after that, that just because you're doing well doesn't mean that you've earned the right to put you in a position where that could be tested, right? Even though the circumstances here were different than when I was young, I know that every time I go to an environment like that, something kicks off every time, right? So just because I'm a little older, just because I went to prison, and you have to remember, even though I came home from prison and I was fairly close to 30, right? I was pushing 29 or whatever. That it, in some ways, you still have a young mentality. So I was mature, I was educated, I was a lot of things while I was in prison, but I hadn't had exposure to the streets, right? And so you put me back on the streets, and while I didn't revert all the way back to old ways, I was still in some sense kind of young-minded, because the last time I was on the streets, I was a teenager. And I think that was a factor, right? In terms of how do you adjust to what's going on around you in society. it's easy to learn how to navigate the bubble of prison and how to be mature and respectful and responsible and wise in the bubble of prison. But the streets is different and it doesn't directly translate, right? You don't lose what you learn in prison, but it's a new application in a new environment that you're not used to anymore. And so you kind of go to ways of thinking from the last time you were out there, right? Um, think of it like if somebody's in prison, they parole to the streets and then they catch a new case, they go back to prison. You walk back into prison, you get back in that prison mindset, real quick because you're like, oh, I'm back in this bubble. Well, it's kind of the same for the streets, and so that was part of it. But it's I haven't earned the right to go to a car show just because I'm home, and those were boundaries that I probably shouldn't have tested, right? And so I learned though then. And I've never been to a big function car show like that before. I've been to one or two really low key ones, right? Like, family based, not a ton of cars, 25 cars, 30 cars or whatever. And I knew a lot of the people there already and I knew the vibe. It wasn't a quote unquote homeboy car show, right? It was like an older person car show where the vibe is different. But those shows, it's just, they're not meant for me. Some people can go to those shows and have a blast. Some people can go to those shows and have no issues. Some people can go in those environments and be just fine. I wanted to be that guy, but I wasn't. And there was no reason to believe that I was. So that was a hell of a test, man, a hell of a test. And I failed. And it's one of those moments I've had since I've been home where I'm a person of faith, right? And it's sort of like God shakes you and gets your attention, like, hey, fool, just the fuck you doing? Right? Here's your warning, right? And so I've taken heed to that warning and avoided those environments. But it just goes to show you if you step into an area where people are looking for funk, and these dudes in the streets, bro, they're banging. They were banging. They were doing what they're supposed to do in that lifestyle, right? What's up, fool? It's time to get off. Let's get off. You know what I mean? And anybody around here can get it. And so I can't fault them for doing what they were doing. And I knew folks like that would be there because those car shows attracts people like that. And they attract other people too, but that environment is there. And probably the way I dressed didn't help, right? Because I'm not walking around like a square dude. I'm walking around like a homeboy, right? And so a red on red conflict happens and you see this dude in khakis and a Montana jersey all, tatted down. You don't recognize him. He must be from the other side. So, and I think people on both sides looked at me that way. So like I said, to this day, I don't know what it was about, man. But I learned that lesson and I would encourage you guys, be mindful of how you test yourself. That whole thing of man, I did my time and they can't tell me what to do. Nobody could tell me not to go to a car show. It's not illegal. I don't have to check in. I don't have to nothing. I can go there if I want to. And thinking, oh, I'm going there with this group, so I'm protected. Not protected in a violent sense, but I'm in a little bubble within a bubble, right? No, that's you step into the arena, man, anything goes, right? And so, yeah, that was a scary day. And another one of those moments where I could have gone back to prison, man. I could have gone right back to prison over what? Because I wanted to go to a street low show because I'd never been to one of those and I've seen the magazines and I thought it'd be cool. It's not worth it. Sometimes you got to be not cool, and so anyways, man, help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community because they need you. There's a lot of other content. Check it out. If you haven't already, please go subscribe to Homie Heart Check, HOMIEHEARTCHECK. I had to think about that. Homie Heart Check, man, where we cover addiction, recovery, mental health, that sort of content. And yeah, in the meantime, you guys have a good one, man. And if you're gonna go to a car show, stay on your P's and Q's.